Hey friends, Kevin Outtro here at the V8 Speed and Resto shop. I am super excited. We're going to do a shop tour to show you some of the latest projects we're working on. But look around me right now. I'm surrounded by some of the best cars that our team has ever built in our 20-year history. And we're going to get an up-close look at some of these as well. So lots of really cool stuff to see. You excited? I'm excited. Let's do this. So today, I'm even more of a kid in a candy store here at our shop. Now this room is normally our body shop, but we really cleaned it up because we are celebrating our 20th anniversary this year, and our friends at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals have invited us to have an invitational display. So we rounded up 7 of our favorite builds that we have done over the past 20 years, brought them all together here at our shop for a quick detail, and now we're going to be bringing them all to Chicago for the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals. So I am surrounded by some awesome cars that are all show prepped and ready to be on display so that people can come check them out in person. And we're going to look at each one, starting in the other room with this great looking car. An awesome 1969 Chevrolet Corvette Roadster that we just finished recently here at V8 Speed and Resto. This was a full build, stripped the car down to nothing, re-gel coated it. Put some custom color and striping on it. It is featuring rocket racing wheels and Willwood brakes and side exhaust, a custom leather interior that we did in-house. You'll notice if you look closely, there's a cool little blue stitch in that. It's also featuring a Tremec TKX 5-speed, upgraded instrumentation, audio, AC, laser straight bodywork. The owner wanted a blue that's a custom blend, so it looks like a 60s Corvette blue, but that is a custom mix that we did here at V8 Speed and Resto. And of course, the real magic on this one is the 427 under the hood. This one is a ZZ427 crate engine. It's a full roller motor. It's got Holley fuel injection, a vintage air front runner AC system on it, MSD ignition, all the cool stuff to provide a bunch of power, a ton of torque, and great reliability. This one also features upgraded suspension, and it's a lot of fun to drive, and we really enjoyed building this car. Kind of reminds me of Captain America. I dig it. Next up, another one of my favorite cars that we've ever done, a 1965 Chevelle Malibu. This one started off as a 6-cylinder, believe it or not. You could get a Malibu SS in a 6-cylinder back in '65. We restored this car early on in the world of the V8 Speed and Resto shop. It's been finished since 2010, so 14 years later, it still looks great. A few things have been changed along the way. We added electronic fuel injection, but we thought it'd be kind of fun to use the 1965 Chevrolet fuel injection badge that you'd find on the Corvettes. One of the things that people dig about this car is the color. It looks like a cool period correct 60s blue, but in actuality this color is a BMW color. It's called Estoril Blue, and this car is wearing sheet metal from OPGI and a lot of GM parts, a lot of restoration parts from OPGI. Interestingly, it's got a set of vintage Wheelworks wheels on it. I don't know that you can even get those anymore, but they still look great today. And under the hood is a very clean little 355 cubic inch small block Chevy. Again, a couple of 1965 Corvette tricks. That air cleaner and the valve covers are reminiscent of the fuel injected Corvette. You can see that Holley Terminator fuel injection system, vintage air, front runner truss up front, disc brakes, aluminum radiator. A lot of nice little details on the car. And the interior is just as clean. This car was built to drive, so we have some SCAT Pro Car seats, tilt steering column, a steering wheel that's got automotive clear, so it feels really nice to grab, overdrive transmission, upgraded gauges with a little custom console in the middle, just super clean. This car took a gold spinner back at the World of Wheels in Chicago on its debut, and if you watch the V8 TV reveal video on that, you remember that it put the owner in tears. He was also my cousin, and I have to admit I cried along with him. It sits the way it does thanks to a Hotchkiss suspension, and it really drives nice. Next up is another one of my favorites. This is a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro that belongs to Comp Cams. Our friends at Comp Cams commissioned us to do their 40th anniversary Camaro. Great story behind this car. Scooter Brothers was a gentleman who started Comp Cams and used to race a car that looked very much like this. It was a 69 Camaro convertible. A couple neat details. You see the striping color, the red, white, and black. The red, of course, matches the Pantone color red used in the Comp logo. Car sits great. It is on a Heights front suspension subframe with a 4-link in the rear, CCW wheels, Wilwood brakes. Interior is super clean. You'll see houndstooth matched articulated buckets. Those are Scat Pro Car units. A TCI shifter, because there's a TCI 6X automatic transmission in here, and we made this little cover over the shifter plate. Dakota digital gauges, vintage air, a lot of the creature comforts we like to put in these cars. But because this was a vehicle used for Comp Cams and their family of products, there are a lot of cool things under the hood. So this is a 454 cubic inch LS-based engine built by Butler. So this is an RHS block. It's got RHS heads, fast fuel injection, Zex nitrous oxide, vintage air compressor up front, a Wagner front drive, Wagner coil covers, Wilwood brakes with Hydro Boost, and this air intake that we fabricated here at V8 Speed and Resto. Very, very clean. Again, that 6X automatic transmission. Oh, they kept our sticker on there. That's cool. And this one on the dyno made 690 horsepower, naturally aspirated. So it is a runner for sure. Great car. And since its completion, it has been to the SEMA show. It's been on Hot Rod Power Tour several times. They've racked up almost 7,000 miles on this car. It's great to see it being driven. Next up, one of our all-time favorites. All these cars are our favorites. Who am I kidding? This is the Loose Change 1969 Camaro. This was a great project. We finished it, I believe, in 2013. This car is called Loose Change. And I'm not talking about the kind of loose change you find in your couch or in your car seat. The owner of this car is named Lou, and this is going to be a big change for him. This car was intended to be a modern interpretation of a 69 Camaro. The original grille was scanned and then 3D modeled and then 3D printed. And then it came to our shop to be painted and assembled and put in the car. This is an updated version in carbon fiber now, but you'll notice, although it is a modern design, it works really well with the original Camaro because it integrates properly. Some more custom touches. This is an actual carbon fiber insert from a ZL1 Camaro, and we made in our shop the custom steel hood that houses that. It really brings this whole thing around and makes it just super clean looking. I love that. This is fully functional. Cold air comes in. We did flush glass and kept the striping of the original 69 on the fender, and then incorporated that modern ZL1 stripe over the top. Over the top. Good adjective for this car. Again, flush glass, little details like trimming the rain gutters and making them all one piece so that they flowed better, getting all the door gaps to fit, brushed handles, forge line wheels, Wilwood brakes, Hydro Boost. We reworked the rear bumper and the rear spoiler so that they fit nice and tight and look much better than the original. Again, wrap that stripe over everything. The stripe continues under the wing as well. Inside the car is a combination of kind of a basic appearance at first because it does not have a console. It has Dakota digital gauges in the dash that give you all the display. 6-speed Magnum transmission with the raised trans tunnel to fit it. Cool things like some LEDs built into the roll cage. When the roll cage is hidden, you'll notice that from this angle, you don't see a roll cage because the tube is right behind this pillar to make it all go away when the windows are up. Tuck that cage up close to the perimeter. Just an idea to make it all nice and clean. custom upholstered Recaro seats, and the rear seat upholstered to match. Power windows. Just lots of creature comforts. Under that functional hood is a supercharged LSA V8 engine. This one has been upgraded with a different cam and valve springs and supercharger pulleys. You'll notice some of the cool little details here. The down bars connecting the Detroit Speed front subframe together to provide additional stiffness. Some little turnbuckle adjusters we added to keep those fenders in place. Cooling has a whole battery of cores up in front for AC, power steering, engine oil, plus the radiator. We've fabricated a custom closeout panel to clean all this up. Just nice and clean, but also very powerful and very functional, and a good looking package. It's going to look good forever. You may have seen our complete build series on the Loose Change Camaro on YouTube or on our V8 TV television show. This car was also featured at SEMA, at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals, and both the Comp Camaro and Loose Change were invited to participate in the 50th anniversary Top 100 Camaros display at the Good Guys Columbus show. Great, tremendous honor to have two of our cars participate in that event. Next up, a little different, a 1967 Pontiac GTO. We restored this car back in 2019 and it still looks awesome. This one on the outside looks pretty much stock. We didn't change very much on the outside. We restored all the body, all the sheet metal. We painted it its original color of Tyrol blue. We did add a sport mirror to the side of the doors and reinstalled the vinyl top that this car had when it arrived at our shop. Beautiful, beautiful car. This one is got a few modifications in the sense that the suspension's been upgraded with some goodies from BMR, so sway bars, lowering springs. It's got four-wheel disc brakes. Inside, we added power windows, reupholstered everything inside, added some Dakota digital gauges, vintage air, and some upgraded audio. But keeping it true to what the GTO looked like when it was new. Underneath that beautiful Tyrol blue is the original Pontiac 400. It's been upgraded with a roller camshaft and a few other performance goodies, but still looks the part. We made a custom firewall to give a little detail because we took the vintage air unit and hid it under the dash, so we no longer had the original GM AC unit on the firewall. But this is an original air conditioning car. And again, just made it nice and clean, paid attention to details. This one was a winner at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals in Chicago a few years ago. There's a great build series video on YouTube that takes you through the whole process of all the detail work we did to make this thing stand tall. Now you can see why I've been so excited, and we're far from over. Let's take a look at the Reloaded Camaro. Reloaded is a 1968 Chevy Camaro built for a really good friend of mine, and the whole theme behind this car was what happens if you kind of mixed up some of the supercar elements from the late 1960s. So your Yenko, your Motion, your Nicky Chevrolet, and made a little bit of a mashup of all of them. So we took a Yenko stripe, kind of more familiar to a 69 car, and applied it to the 68, which made it run through the wheel openings, and it goes to the back and kicks up a little bit. This is not an original Yenko car, but it is an original SS 396, or at least it was. Today, under that functional steel Corvette Stinger style hood, is a 490 cubic inch big block Chevy V8. This is a full roller engine, and it was just so much fun to do this car. The owner said, give me big block or give me death. So we have the big block with these big muscular Moroso aluminum valve covers. We didn't want to hide everything, but just route things nicely. So you'll see the wires go around the valve covers. They don't lay over the top. All of the AC hoses go through the fender so that they're not in broad view. We got a flat firewall, black vintage air front accessory drive. All the fittings we zinc plated so that they reflect that silverish color scheme. And that's really all you see is the satin black and the silver. It's got a Holley Sniper EFI system, and then the functional hood, which breathes right through that filter buried inside that Stinger scoop. Great car to drive. The fuel injection makes it reliable. The suspension is upgraded with parts from Detroit Speed and a Detroit Speed Quadrolink rear suspension, so it handles really, really well. Up front, we cut and narrowed the bumper to make it fit real nice. It's got Detroit Speed electric headlight motors. The wheels are Rocket Racing boosters with custom redline tires made by Diamondback Classics. Again, we added a modern sport mirror that's from a 1970 Camaro. And inside, reloaded is super comfortable. Scat seats, original style trim everywhere as far as the way the console looks, but it's been upgraded to accommodate the overdrive. Some gauges from New Vintage USA that power up real cool in color. Upgraded audio, and of course the air conditioning, and a lot of restoration parts from Classic Industries to make the whole interior look brand new. Reloaded's body has been massaged, so all the door gaps are nice and precise, and everything fits real clean and tight. The rear wing has been closed off in the front. Normally these have a gap there that makes it appear like air goes through, but it really doesn't. And then it's been sucked tighter to the quarter panel. And the stripe is real interesting because it goes up and over the top of the wing, but not on the back. So kind of an unexpected detail there. Blacked out tail panel, because that means big block, right? And the rear bumper, again, has been cut and tucked to fit tight to the body. So a lot of cool custom things, but all fit the flavor of the car and match the original design done by Ben Hermance. It still looks great 12 years later. This is another one that has a complete build series on YouTube and on our website. You can see all the photos and video. So one of the takeaways of this exercise is to point out that even though some of these cars were built 5, 7, 10, 12 years ago, even longer, they still look great today. And that's a testament to the care that our team puts in when building these cars. It takes a long time, and there's a lot of details to get right. But by doing that, you've got a much greater chance of having the car look show ready decades later. We're going to look at one more Chevelle that we did back in 2014 when we make our way to the other room. But right now, the last vehicle in this room is one in progress, and that's this awesome 57 Ford Wagon. The goal of this 1957 Ford Ranch two-door wagon is pretty simple, and that is to appear stock on the outside and definitely not be stock underneath, right? So you can see a little bit here, that is the color that this car is going to be. It's an original Ford color called Star Mist Blue, and we'll get to that in a sec. But this is what the rendering looks like for this car. So this is what we're going for. Star Mist Blue, lowered stance, kind of a Hallebrand style wheel. Everything else is pretty much stock on the outside except for the 1958 hood that has the scoop in it, right? Why would you have that? Well, because we need to feed this. This is an all aluminum 540 cubic inch John Kazi built Ford single overhead cam V8. That's right, it's a Camaro. And it's fed by a pair of Holley throttle bodies, electronic fuel injection, custom headers that we fabricated in-house, sitting in a Roadster shop chassis. So it has all kinds of high tech under the hood, but matched with this awesome vintage single overhead cam heritage. These single overhead cam engines were basically outlawed by everybody in 65 and 6. This one now has a front drive from Billet Specialties because it's got air conditioning and power steering. It's going to have Hydro Boost brakes. And so we're starting to see an interesting mix of like brutal power. This thing made 840 some horsepower, but with a sport chassis, refinements like AC in a stock appearing envelope. So it goes in several directions. And in order to fit all this, we custom made the floor and the transmission tunnel to clear the transmission and to fix a little bit of rust. It was a very clean car to start with. The owner wants to drive this car like a station wagon. So it needs to be able to store stuff, So we made a custom trunk panel. That opening there is for fuel system accessibility. And then right now, the car is here in our body shop as we're just starting to do the body work and straighten all the little dings and ripples out of the roof and quarters. But the metal has all been fit. We had to replace part of these dog legs and fabricate those in-house, and numerous little sheet metal patches and repairs. You'll see on the firewall from this seam all the way to the back of the car, the whole bottom side has been painted the Star Mist blue and wet sanded and buffed, so the bottom side is going to look as nice as the top. And this car is going to be a blast to drive. The interior is going to remain very stock appearing once again. The original bench seat will be in place with the original Ford power bench mechanism that we had to rework to fit that new trans tunnel. It's going to be wearing original Ford style upholstery and even have a column shift on the steering column, so not even a floor shift. So quite a contrast from what's going on in there as opposed to what's going on in here. And we're super happy to bring it around. We're thankful to Murray Camant for the rendering to help us visualize this car, and very thankful to the owner for letting us bring his 57 Ford vision to life. Great car. So this part of the tour, we saw some finished cars and the wagon in process. All of these cars are going with us to the 2024 Muscle Car and Corvette National Show in Chicago. Bringing them all. It's going to be a great display. And it gives the public a chance to see our work up close and personal, even in process. But speaking of in process, let's check out some of the other departments of the V8 Speed and Resto shop to see what other cool cars our team is currently building. So we've just entered the main mechanic shop here at the V8 Speed and Resto shop, where we have a really cool variety of projects going on all around us. The first stop on our tour is very cool 1949 Oldsmobile Futuramic Rocket 88. That's right. Rocket 88 was the designation given to these in 1949 because they launched their new V8 engine for Oldsmobile. You can see that cool Rocket 88 badge on it. Globe logo back there. But this is different because it's a sedan delivery. It's got no windows back here like a station wagon. This is all enclosed. That's really cool, but it came here because it didn't drive very well. The whole front suspension was original and the engine needed a little help. So we put a modern front end underneath it, kind of a street rod style Mustang 2 coilover setup. And in our machine shop went through the original Olds 303 V8. So there it is, the Rocket 88. Legendary engine, made these things great performers back in the day. And now this one will be much better because of the braking and suspension improvements, the steering. These are not the wheels that we are running. We're putting the Steelies back on like you see in the back, but these are the roll-arounds. And did some upgrades inside. We're redoing the interior, made some door panels in our interior shop. Our body shop just repainted the dash, and we're putting the gauges back in, and we custom modified the steering wheel to shrink the horn ring a little bit. That's going to get replated. But very cool little project, something different for sure. We have another video on this one on our YouTube channel that goes into a little more depth on what this car is and what we did to it. So pretty fun. Next up, 69 Camaro. Yes, we like working on these cars. We've done a lot on this one. It came to us restored a few years ago, but it needed some help. We have a video that we did on this car where we actually changed the subframe and the engine without taking the front sheet metal off. And it's a pretty interesting project. Today, it's getting some upgrades, Ride Tech suspension and some disc brakes, improvements, doing a Ride Tech 4-link in the back. So the suspension's out of it. That's the cradle for the Ride Tech setup to make this one drive even nicer. But it is a cool looking car. You can't go wrong with a classic red 69 Camaro. RS tail lights here with the separated reverse light, bumperettes, and all that cool stuff. Spinning around just a little bit, we see a familiar face. This is a 1969 Chevelle that we finished back in 2014, I believe. Customer brought us this car with the quarter panels removed and replaced, but the rest of the sheet metal needed to be done, and we kind of took it from there. He had restored the chassis and had a 460 some inch big block Chevy built for the car, which is in there now. We did the rest of the restoration, all the paint work, body work, full interior. Eventually put a manual 5-speed transmission in it. This car got featured in Hemmings Muscle Machines magazine. The color is really cool. It's called Carbon Flash Metallic. You can see that metallic in there. It's not solid black, and sets off real nice with the red SS stripe. We put a bullet mirror on it to make it look a little sleeker. It scored really highly at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals. He's got a room full of trophies on this one, so we love that he gets out and shares it with the masses. Over here, a little modern muscle. This is a 2014 1LE Camaro. That's the showroom stock SCCA designation. These cars are kind of cool. They're lightweights with better suspension and a little better performance from the factory. This particular one had a clutch issue, so we do upgrades and performance modifications on modern muscle as well. And you know, it only makes sense because we've taken a lot of the drive lines out of cars like this and put them into cars like that. So we're very familiar with the electronics and the way these things work, and we enjoy working on them. So other notable things in this particular room, this is the workspace of one of our technicians named Red. He obviously likes Hot Wheels, which is cool. But we've got a little sign up there that says tough and competent, and we've been asked about that sign in the past. And what that refers to is a story from the NASA Apollo program. And that sign refers to a very specific document written by Apollo flight director Gene Kranz after the tragic Apollo 1 launch pad fire back in 1967, in which 3 American astronauts lost their lives. And what Kranz had written is that as the NASA Apollo program advanced, there was no room for error. There was no room for complacency. If there was something that wasn't going right, it was not the time to turn your head. It was a time to focus on it and fix it. He said, our crew, the NASA team, needed to be tough enough to recognize when things weren't going well, and competent enough to fix them if something was going to happen. So I love that. It was a tragedy what happened, but the attitude and the persistence of being tough and competent to fix issues like this is something that we try to instill in our own team, so that as we're building these cars, we're paying attention and making sure that if we see something that isn't right, we fix it and make sure we get it right. Because these are also vehicles, and safety matters and quality matters in addition to style and making power. So that's what the tough and competent sign is. Moving on in our tour, the 1964 Corvette. And if you watch our YouTube videos, you'll recognize this car. This one, we did a full video series on the repaint and the brakes and suspension upgrades and the interior fixes on this one. And the customer drives it a lot, and drove it across country, as a matter of fact. And the engine that was in it wasn't really doing very well after time. It started to burn some oil, and it was a little down on power. So he brought it back to us for a freshen up. So the engine went through our engine machine shop and has now been reassembled, and it's getting ready to go back into the Corvette so that it continues to be an awesome driving car. You can look up that video on YouTube to see this one get built the first time, and then we'll probably do a follow-up video on it once the new engine is in place. Up here, a Camaro. How about that? 67 this time. Great car. It has a custom color. It's kind of a medium blue, and it's satin. And the reason why is because the customer wanted to be able to drive this car a lot and hard and not worry about chipping it up. So car came to us, we installed quarter panels and floors, and a ton of new sheet metal on it. And under the hood is an LSA supercharged V8, making a bunch of power, some power mods on that. Inside the car, you can see the 6-speed handle. We made some seat covers. These are TMI buckets. They're deeply contoured, and they have bolsters in them so that you don't fly out of them, but they have the original Camaro look with the white stripe in it from a Camaro Deluxe interior back in the day. So a nice little combination of old and new. Right now, he's quite happy with the satin look. Get it in this blue and go out and have fun with it. So very cool car, cool customer. He loves to have fun with this car, and it runs hard. Next up is this 1963 Corvette. We've done a couple of videos on this one already. This is a car that we had to repair the body on, and we actually put a whole new nose of fiberglass on this one, but it's on a custom chassis and it's powered by an LS3. But one of the fun things about this is kind of keeping that vintage fuel-injected Corvette look under the hood, right? We're in the process of making kind of a ram's horn air intake to hide the filters, and this will have a cool cover over the top of it. And the whole thing's gonna look, very much like the original design, but modernized. This car is gonna be so cool. Riverside red with a white leather interior. We had our friend Murray Comont make a rendering over here on the wall, and that's what we're looking for as far as what this car is going to look like. A modern upsized version of the original 63 Corvette hubcap. A little bit of insight on what that engine compartment might look like. This was part of the design concept along the way. We love to do renderings of these cars so that you can really get a visual on what they're going to be long before they're finished, right? It's a nice guide. So a very cool Corvette. It's going to be a lot of fun to drive. This is one of my favorite departments here at V8 Speed and Resto, our metal fabrication shop. We've got a lot of cool tools like the Polmax power hammer and English wheels and planishing hammers and lots of fun stuff to be able to make parts or fix your cars up on jigs to replace parts with new ones or reproduction. All the metal magic happens right here. First car we encounter is a 1967 Camaro. This is on one of those fixtures that locates the body shell in the proper location so that as we disassemble and replace rusty panels, the structure doesn't twist and we don't lose the shape. Oftentimes we end up putting the car back into a more accurate shape than it was when it came in because they might have gotten wrecked or twisted or whatnot. But this car, we did a video intro on this one. It was a black 67 RS SS car that had some rust problems, did some floor repairs inside. Right now we also have a tail pan going on, and we've replaced trunk floor and just getting this one all back to solid. Very cool car, following the progress on our website and YouTube channel. Camaros are very popular. Here's a 69 convertible. We've also done some video on this car in the past. You can see a little more detail. This one is getting a lot of custom touches. In the other room, we saw tighter fitting rear spoilers and bumpers and things, and this car is kind of getting that right now. We did a lot of sheet metal repair and replacement on this car, but we like to make sure all the gaps are real tight so that everything fits the way it's supposed to, and that's all done in steel. It's never done with filler or anything else. So right now we're gonna work this bumper, right? So here's a great example. You look at this gap and the size of the gap there, how big my finger fits through that. Back here in the middle, it's almost flush against the car. And then back here, it's about half, right? And this gap is real big. So we're going to work the mounts, we're going to work the bumper, we might cut it and narrow it and fix that so that it fits precision all the way around. One of the fun things you can do in the metal shop is make things fit the way you really want them to. Great project in the home stretch as far as the metal work, and pretty soon we'll be going into the body and paint side. Back in the rear mechanic shop, we always have lots of cool projects going on. Here's an early 80s Corvette that is getting some power and performance upgrades between the brakes and some engine work, a full interior to modernize it and make it more fun to drive. Dakota digital gauges, you can see there. This is going to be a neat car. These style of Corvettes are great platforms because you can get into them pretty cheap, and with the right part selections, they become great performers and just a lot of fun. Next to that, we have a really cool Dodge Charger. This one was started by the customer, and when you peek under the hood, He's already got a Gen 3 EFI Hemi installed, but he's tasked us with kind of finishing off this car. There's some things on here that he did to the best of his ability and doesn't have the time or the resources to take all the way through to the finish line. So I know we're doing some work on the interior. He's got a custom console he designed that we're going to be putting in, modifying the transmission tunnel floor so that that fits better, doing some rewiring and some other upgrades. There's a piece out of the trans tunnel there. So I like this car. He's had it a long, long time, and our goal is to get it back on the road for him to where he can enjoy it and really have fun with it. Cool color, neat style. These cars have this great grille that just super cool style from these things. So next, staying in the 70s for a moment, is a 76 El Camino. And this car is really cool. The owner just always wanted a mid-70s El Camino. So we found this car for him and put it on a new suspension. So it's got tubular front and rear control arms and much better shocks and brakes. We did a crate engine in it, so it's a high-performance small block. We restuffed the seats and stitched a new cover for them. So that's the original style, but all done in leather now. And these are swivel buckets, so they turn. Gauges are Dakota Digital, did some upgraded audio, and kept all the original trim. Didn't really change the way this thing looks, because that's what he wanted. And you know, it's clean. I never really looked at 76 El Caminos like, wow, that's cool. But once you see the way it sits and you drive it with, you know, new levels of power, Holley fuel injection, overdrive, all of a sudden this becomes something uncommon that is very cool. People love it. We're gonna do a full feature video on this one shortly when it's finished. So very cool little project. Next to that, speaking of unusual, this is that 53 Studebaker. We did a intro video on this car as well, and now you can see the front sheet metal's off. We did some of the metal work on the doors. We put new quarters on it because they were bashed and rusty and full of filler, so the car is going to get repainted, but we're also fixing the front suspension. And this one's got a small block Chevy that powers it, but it seems to have had some upgrades, you know, tubular upper and lower control arms, rack and pinion. This is an electric power steering unit. But unfortunately, it just didn't drive right. There was something weird with the geometry. And what we found is that whoever did the install of the suspension didn't quite get it. Just because the parts go on the car doesn't mean it's going to be optimal. So we're going to be going through this and correcting and fixing and replacing so that this one drives really cool. I love these cars. There was a lot of land speed records set with this body style. And it's unfortunate if you have one that you can't drive fast, right? Because it didn't feel stable. But we're going to take care of all that and make this thing be a highway king once again. Last stop in this department is a very cool 1971 Oldsmobile Cutlass SX 455 convertible. It's black. It came to us restored. It needed some help. We did a full rebuild on the 455 in our engine machine shop. So we removed it, we tore it down. We found out that it had a hurt block. We ended up installing some sleeves in the cylinders to repair those. Block machining was all done, cylinder head machining, new internals, brought it all back to life. And that is a fresh 455 right now. It's actually a few cubic inches bigger than that because of the machine work, but a nice paint finish on the outside, restored correct to look the way it's supposed to and run real strong. Beautiful car. So this is a great example of how our internal engine machine shop can either rebuild or renew a stock original numbers matching correct engine or build a very high performance custom, you know, racing engine, whatever you like. We can handle all that in-house. We're wrapping up our tour of V8 Speed and Resto here in our paint shop. Always a lot going on. Right in front of us, we have a few parts from a 1955 Chevrolet truck. Got some custom paint work going on there. In the corner, another 69 Camaro that's just going into the process. It came back from the media blaster and has some epoxy on it. Some of the bare steel spots are steel we're going to change, so it's not all wrapped in epoxy primer at this point. No need to waste material if you're just going to pull it off, right? Then right in front of us, another couple of hoods. A fun little exercise on a custom 69 Camaro hood with a cool little stripe pattern, and then the hood for that 55 Chevy pickup truck. So always a lot going on, even full-size cars, like whatever this is. I think I crashed one of these once. If you have a cool old car, truck, custom, hot rod, muscle car, something else that you want restored, painted, modified, built, you can find us anytime at v8speedshop.com. Thanks for watching. This is cool. Hey! Thank you.